it felt so uncomfortable for me to want to bring someone around my daughter. And if it didn't work out, would she feel that she was that missing piece for her would be even more difficult? So I was very conscientious of that. I was very more worried about her than me.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, because I protected her so much, I lost a lot of time of finding the person that was right for me.
Well, thank you so much, Celeste, for joining me today. I am super happy and excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor, really. Thank you for this space to be able to talk to your audience here and hopefully give them, something that they can take back into their life and know that they're not alone.
Yeah, and that's super important. I feel like a lot of people in general, and especially women, sometimes they don't think anyone else is kind of experiencing the challenges that they're experiencing. And yeah, I find these conversations can really, yeah, like you said, let them know they're not alone. So yeah, very excited to dive in today. So I've noticed there's a lot of women in my sphere and that listen to the podcast that are single mothers and that are raising children that really would like a relationship, really would like a partner, a companion to share their life with, to invite into the family. But there's so many fears and challenges that come up for them when they're moving, back into the dating scene or into relationships. From your own experience, what was your journey like with that? If you have something to share on that.
Yeah. Thank you for, allowing me to, like I said, have the space because let me just start a little bit, not at the beginning, but my journey began after college, after I graduated, and I knew that I wasn't going to go to law school. And I really started to tap into my passions. And some of those passions were image consulting, because I just naturally really love to shop. I really love to make people feel better. So when I would take friends and family and it would just like, it was like a kid in a candy store and I was so excited and I didn't really know what it was. I was like, oh, it's just clothes. It's just the material portion of it. But it was so much more for me. And it took me a little while to realize that I was making them smile. I was like seeing their shoulders go back and I was just seeing, different stages of their life. And just by putting on the right colors and clothes and whatever. And it was just this really fun bonding experience. So long story short, I got certified in that. Um, and then as I was navigating through the image consulting world, a lot of women were telling me to focus because, well, prior to that, I got certified as a matchmaker, but I really didn't do anything with it. But women were fascinated. They, oh, you've got to focus on the dating side. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And so it took me a while because right after I got certified as an image consultant, I found out I was pregnant.
Mm.
And my daughter's father and I were on not having on the best area in our life, and I started to discover more and more about him, things that I just really did not want in my life or my daughter's life. And he I come to find out he was a severe drug addict,
Mm.
and hid it very well. And little by little, it started to come out, as he was trying to be and get sober. His coping mechanism and his coping skills were quite. They weren't. I don't want to even say refined. He didn't know how to cope, and so he lashed out, and he was very violent and was very mentally abusive. And I knew in that moment that I would do whatever it took to protect my daughter. Long story short, I went through a long, arduous court battle and won.
Mhm.
And it was bittersweet. It was for my daughter not being able to have a father, but also knowing that I could protect her. And so dating for me was really non-existent because I was a sole parent and I was in survival mode. And survival mode for me has only just started to dwindle. My daughter is 16 years old.
Wow.
I have dated, and I will talk to you about that and what that is like. And I'm sure shared custody or having having a father is probably just as hard because you're a mother, and I don't think that ever shuts down. But for me, it was 24/7. I didn't have anybody to, oh, you're going to your father's house this weekend, so now I can focus on me a little bit. So it was a little bit different. I'd had to get a sitter, and it was just like, okay, by the time the day and came and went, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But I started to date when she was here and there, 5, 6, 7, 8, just not very seriously though, because it felt so uncomfortable for me to want to bring someone around my daughter. And if it didn't work out, would she feel that she was that missing piece for her would be even more difficult. So I was very conscientious of that. I was very more worried about her than me. And because of that, because I protected her so much, I lost a lot of time of finding the person that was right for me. And I don't know if some of your clients have similar experiences when you are a divorced parent, and it's really difficult you want someone there, but there's all these other elements, right? You're worried about the children, you're worried about this, you're worried about maybe him coming in and wanting to take over. I mean, there's all of these things that pop into your head, at least for me. And that was my story. And I probably told myself a lot of stuff in my head that held me back. I mean, 1,000%. And so I started to really do some work inwardly and, over the years. And I really wanted to work on myself. I really wanted to be like the best parent. I want the best business owner, the best daughter and sister and all that other stuff. But I really missed out on like being the best me for me. And I'm really realizing in the last couple years that it's time for me. And so all of that led me to start to rebrand because I felt so passionate about all these beautiful, successful women in my life surrounding me who are single. It's so amazing, have so many great things to offer, but could never find that person for them. Or they were dating the wrong person. They kept repeating the same patterns. And I was like, oh, it's definitely the men, right? It's like their fault. It's not our fault. But as I've learned over time, that's not the case.
Yeah. It'd be nice, but
I know. So naturally, I've worked with men and women. And the women that I worked with in the very beginning it was a very much of a challenge for me. And I think I have a very strong presence when I work. I'm very direct and I'm not mean at all. I'm just very like, if you want to get to point A, or point B, we need to go dot, 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 right? And with a man, you'd be like, okay, I need new suits. I'm a coach. I need to do X, Y, Z. And we'd go handle it in a day or a few hours. And he'd be so happy. Where a woman would be like, oh, I'm going to take it back. I'm feeling like I just want to go back to what I was doing before. So I started working with men more predominantly. But now in the last couple of years, I find that women are coming to me because it's a much different space. The biggest takeaway that I can give everybody listening here today, one, you can't control chemistry. That's something you're going to have to meet someone in real life. Okay. It is what it is. You can be perfect on paper, but that's one thing you can't control, and it can grow. So don't if there's something a little bit there and you feel like it could grow, then give it another chance. Don't give up. But if your values and your beliefs and your life goals align, I don't care about age. I don't care about hobbies. I don't care about even different religion. if your partner or the person respects you and allows you to be who you are, and you have those similar values, family values, or whatever it is, you want to travel, or you're at the same season in life. So, and I say why age doesn't matter. My sister's married to a man that's 20 years older, but they're in the same profession. They're very family oriented. They love each other. I mean, it's just a beautiful relationship. So it's possible, but you have to be in this, you have to have those three things to really have a successful, meaningful relationship.
And those are, again, you said chemistry, values.
So it's actually life goals, values, and beliefs. And your beliefs can change a little bit. So don't think just because what you were taught as a 3-year-old, because they do start when you're young, it's not something that can, it is something that can change. You're not stuck with those. But I think as you move into another relationship, especially if you've been married and now you're divorced, you get to decide what those are for you. And this should be so exciting for these ladies, these women, and they should feel empowered. And I think the way to feel empowered is by getting very, very clear on who you are in this new season in your life, owning that, loving that, cherishing that, celebrating. And then the other part is getting very clear on who it is you want in your life. We all know what we don't want. We've been through a few relationships, or one or two, or whatever it is, but really honing on those things. And I mean, getting really deep, not just, oh, tall, dark, and handsome. I hope that was a little helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I definitely just want to go back and acknowledge you and thank you for sharing your story and being vulnerable about that time of your life, which sounds like it was super stressful. You know, you're pregnant, ready to give birth to your first child, and things are so not calm or peaceful, but like, you know, you're already in that mode. I got to protect my daughter. And then from, you know, that point to, I can totally see how dating was so challenging because you're just focused on the protection of your daughter. Who am I letting in? And also probably, you know, what if this person hides his drug addiction from you as well, or hides something else from you as well. And I know a lot of women are super scared of attracting the wrong person again, like repeating those patterns again. So they make that choice where I'd rather just stay away. And you mentioned that you started kind of to dabble in dating, like when your daughter was between like 5 and 8 or 9. And I'm wondering what it was at that time that gave you the courage to just try it. Like, what do you think that was?
Well, I think everybody was like, what's wrong with you? You're beautiful. You're like, you have so much to offer. And I'm just like, some days, like I said, I just was, you know, just literally survival, get her to school and make sure she does homework and work on my business and put a roof over her head. I mean, the really basics of life, and giving her love and support. And I knew, so I'm the oldest of quite a large family. And there was something that I knew when I had my daughter, that I wanted to give her my undivided attention and be there as much as I could. That was really important to me. All recitals, all her class things. And I wanted her to know that even though she didn't have a father, that I was taking on, and I was going to be her rock. And that was so important. And it still is. And probably from what happened, I took on, I mean, it definitely took on both roles. And probably more pressure on me, and probably a bit more hard on myself, because there's nothing that made me feel more terrible than knowing that I could not give her. That's the one thing I couldn't control, was the relationship, the lack of relationship there with the father. And that tore me apart. And I really, really, like, it's still very hard to know. I mean, now I'm healed from it, but it's still kind of like, I wish there was that moment that I said, oh, why didn't I choose a better partner? Why did I beat myself up? Because you're right, right? You said we're scared of repeating the same patterns. But what I did at that moment, I started to work on myself because I did not want that to happen, and it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So what part did I play in that? How was I not listening? Or maybe I was, because I always knew there was something in my gut, and it's really listening to that intuition. Because every time I've listened to the intuition, I've always been right. And we have that as women. I mean, I think as humans, but women have it stronger. We know, but we don't want to listen. What started me to want to date again? I felt that I was not normal. I felt that I should be dating, and I should be ready, and I should be all of the outside pressure. And it's not that I didn't want a companion or I didn't want a relationship. I just felt I was still, and this is, a life's work of it's my life's work to work on myself, right? I still felt I needed to protect her, and it was like so deep, and walls went up. So I probably wasn't the best person to date. I would date very without touching my heart. The Fort Knox was, it was. Now I look back and I was like, wow, girl, you had some walls up. And so I'd go on dates. I'd be like, okay, well, there's always something wrong with them. Not me, of course. It's not this, not that, whatever. And I'm sure, I'm 1,000% sure my energy was shut down. So people didn't want to approach me as much. And it was very nice. So I'm not I'm very, but it was not the real Celeste.
Yeah. What came up for me as well as you shared that, like, being your daughter's like protector and like her rock, and like fulfilling both of those roles, like your motherly role and the father role for your daughter, and how many women actually have to do that. And then to let this, like, you're already fulfilling both of these roles, and you're probably actually having to be more in that masculine role of the provider, of the rock, of that strong person, that even like the walls, like protection, right? And then to go on a date with a man, and like, you're already fulfilling that masculine role. So what do you need them for? And also, like, how challenging would it be to then soften and like open your heart like this feminine woman? I'm just like, as you're talking, what challenges that single moms have to go through, and like how incredible it actually is when they get to a point that they're able to let down some of those walls and open up. So
I think I've been to therapy and self-development. This is the first time I've spoken publicly about this. It's something that I just actually had a revelation 2 days ago. I was at this amazing conference, and I was so lucky and blessed to be invited to. And all of these huge speakers were there talking about their success, vulnerability, and the things that they've struggled with. And something clicked for me. You know what has healed me has been 1.5 years of my podcast. It is having experts like you share their stories and having real human connection. And the more and more you realize what I realized, that I wasn't alone, and that I had so much more support because I never asked. I thought I could do it all myself. And I think that's such a thing for us as single parents. I mean, especially women. I mean, we can do it all, right? We're super women. We do it all. We cook, we clean, we tend to the kids, and then, we do everything. And so I have been through years of therapy and all, like I said, and I believe that because I've had all of these amazing people on my show, each time there's something within me in that connection that has literally softened my heart, has taken down the walls. And obviously, last couple of years with a teenage daughter is knowing that like those walls are not working and they're not working for her in our relationship. So you better start getting
Mm,
on that. And so now I think I'm in a really place after 16 years, that's a long time where I can actually let someone in my heart.
mm. Wow. Yeah, that's so powerful. And yeah, the power of connection and the power of for me, it's like the power of women coming together and sharing stories. And of course there's men as well, but I find something so potent and um connective about women sharing their stories. And I love too that thank you for sharing that. And you know, I love that you're an expert in this field of dating and helping men and women, enter relationships and all this. And still, like, healing is always ongoing, but like you said, after 16 years, like, my heart is softening, and you're opening up more and more. And that's so beautiful. And it's so important to know that it's like this super long, it's a long, I don't think we'll ever stop healing. I
Yeah.
just feel like there'll always be something. um
Yeah. And I think my biggest takeaway, if I would have asked for help a lot faster, it doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you can't do it all. I honestly feel the more support, the faster and really asking for it, because people really truly want to help. People
mhm.
really, when someone's asking from the heart for something, they remember that more, the person that actually helps. And
Yeah.
so remember that they want to. And I just thought I could do it all myself. And so living
Mhm.
in that world of aloneness, if you will,
Mhm.
it serves nobody.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't serve the children, definitely doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve anybody that's trying to date you.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. It's so important to be
Hmm.
able to ask for help and to get to that point. And I mean, that's a journey in itself to get to the point where you're asking for help. And I have many women in my life that they use the phrase, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a
Hmm.
burden. And yeah, and it's beautiful to see them, at some point, if they ask me, I feel so honored, like you said, like, for that person that's being asked for help, like, yes, I want to help. Yes, I want to support you. And I feel so honored that you would ask me. So yeah,
Yeah, I don't know where that came about, like that we all have to, you know, that it's shameful for women to feel
yeah.
that we have to ask for help. That's
Mm-hmm.
just no, no, no. Please, please don't take 16 years to, and like how much of my life has been on hold. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not even that yes, I probably missed out a lot, but it's almost like that part of my life that has been on hold. And there's no reason for you to let someone else in.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you did say something that's like so common with women that are um even professional women, just business owners, lawyers, doctors, whatever you want to say, but coming into the feminine energy, you will not you will not attract that masculine energy, because two masculine energies is competition, and you
Mm-hmm.
feel it right away. And yes, we are in our masculine a lot when we're professional women, or when we're like hustling, and even as mothers, handling stuff. But allowing somebody to lessen your load, allowing
Mm-hmm.
someone to allow you just to like be in your own space and be softened, and let them handle stuff. And I
Mm-hmm.
say this with I run a business. So I don't mean let someone take control of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying let them decide where to take you for dinner. Don't worry about that stuff. You have to make all these decisions in your daily life for your children, for yourself, and for the house. And wouldn't it be nice just to have someone say, okay, hon, let me pick you up at 8 o'clock. Don't worry about it. Just one night for you just to have a good time, enjoy
Mm-hmm.
a nice meal. go on a walk, just not think of the everyday things that we always have to think about.
Mm-hmm. And Celeste, what you just said, that was so good. By allowing someone to support you, you're not allowing them to control you. I think a lot of women especially think, well, why would I let him choose where to like take me for dinner or tell me what to wear? Like that's controlling. But the relaxing into that and just allowing someone to make those decisions for us, like you just said. And I know for myself, these little things, like with my man right now, when he's like, where do you want to go? And I just say, you choose. And I legitimately just want him, like, just make the decision. And it's so nice. And he'll be like, hey, we're going to go there. I'm like, perfect. That's so great. And I just relax. And it's such a nice feeling. And yeah, it's just because I have enough things that I got to think about and organize and lead on. So these little things that, yeah, it feels wonderful to let someone else just kind of take the reins and
Yeah, and they love it. They do.
mm-hmm.
Especially men today, they don't know where their place is at. This is a struggle that I'm finding in a lot of men that I speak to or that are my clients is there's not that 1950s man. There's also not this man out there who has a feminine energy, right? The two feminines, nothing happens. So it's like, oh, you decide, and it's like nothing happens. And then so you've got to have the dance, you've got to have the two energies. And it doesn't matter if you're in a same-sex relationship, a hetero relationship, it's the energy. And it's okay to tell them, you can open your door. We know that. You can do all of these things because we've been working so hard to have equal rights. We're not quite there yet, but it's yes, we can do the same thing, but allowing him to open the door for you, allowing him to kind of give him a purpose makes him feel great just as much as it makes you feel good. Even if it's a little bit of a struggle, because you do it all the time. I know that was a struggle for me. I'm like, I naturally go for the door. It's habit, but allow him to do it for you. That's huge.
Yes. Yes. It's so funny that you bring that up because just now, like on this weekend, I went for a trip with my man, and the same thing, like I'm so used to doing these things, but I really love it when the doors open for me or when the car door is open for me. So I'm reminding myself now as I go up to a door, it's like, just stop and don't be worried about the time. Just allow him to like walk up and open the door. But I have to consciously remind myself, like, no, don't open the door. Just allow him. So today, actually, I stood in front of a coffee shop door just for a second and just stared at the door and then allowed him to come from behind to open it. I was like, thank you. And so it feels a little bit awkward sometimes. But I can tell like he loves doing that. It's almost like he stands up a little taller, his chest gets a little bigger, and like that appreciation, like thank you for doing that. Because it just for both, it just feels so good.
Yeah. And I'm just going to I have two amazing nephews. One is the same age as my daughter, and one's a couple years older. And my sister, you did such a good job raising those boys because they are such gentlemen. And there's such a lack of, I'm not bashing all parents right now, I want you to know, but there's just this lack of guidance with raising your sons to be gentlemen. And I think it's huge. I think it's missing in the world. It used to be like that was what you do.
Yes.
And now I think because there's this confusion of roles.
Yes.
And and that's a whole nother conversation. But when my nephew comes to my house, he's literally does everything. He carries the groceries in, he and he just automatically gets every door, a car door. We're out walking about. I mean, he just takes over, and it just is such a beautiful thing because he feels special and I feel like a queen.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of allowing the masculine. And that's what it means. It's not the control, right? So like you might have to step back and take a minute, but that is huge when you're dating. And look, if he doesn't know, send him my way.
Yeah, exactly. in working with men and women, you have seen both of their struggles in the dating realm. How would you say men's challenges differ from women's? Like what are men's biggest challenges?
So I love the fact that we can get on an app and find a plethora of people. I also really don't like online dating for I'm about 50-50. I think there's success stories and there's not success stories, because what I feel that people can do so easily is lie. And so men are saying that women lie about, weight, and they put pictures when they were skinnier online. But men are usually lying about height, and they're lying about income. And I feel like they lie about age way more than women do. Another thing is probably there's more women out there who come across as needy, meaning like, I've got to find the man. Is he Mr. Right? Is he Prince Charming? And it shows when you're dating, because it comes across as either aggressive, or you're on an interview instead of a date. And you're kind of like, I don't have time, I got kids, so let me rattle off like the 10 most important questions. Who's your ex, and how, all of these like things. And men will shut down, they will leave, and they will run so fast. And I think also men can come across as needy too, and that says drama to women. We don't want any more drama in our life, right? We want somebody to make our life happier and easier. Or people aren't really realizing what's going on with themselves. Oh, I keep dating the same person. That happens on both sides. The same person keeps showing up, and every time I'm like, that's not going to happen again. I'm not going to date that type of person. So really what's happening is it's within us, right? There's something that happens, and I think it's very familiar and common for both. When we're young, sometimes people say you marry your as a woman, you marry your father, or the woman marries her, and the dad, the man marries his mother. Because what happens, and so ingrained in us as children, is that and when we're dating, it's, even if we don't want to be like, I'm not going to marry someone like my father, I'm very specific about it. But my last relationship was a lot like my father. And what happens is you're attracted to familiarity, and that's what I should be dating, or that's what I'm attracted to. But your parents aren't always the example of what you should be dating. And so you have to stop yourself and say, is this what I am attracted to, is what I need, or what I want? So there's this very you should probably be dating the opposite, just to try and be like, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. It's not. So I think there's a lot of that happening. And of course, if you're not self-aware, if you don't work on yourself, and you're, oh, it's the other person for sure if it keeps happening. But maybe look at yourself and realize the same things are coming up. Why are they coming up? What's coming up for you?
Something actually, as you're saying, that came up for me right now. And it was the realization, and this wasn't in relationships, but it helped me to see this in relationships. So it was, I used to work in hospitality, and I think over the span of, let's say, 10 years, it took me a long time to realize, but every place I worked at, I had conflict with a woman there. And so this just kept happening. Every place I went to, I was in conflict with a woman. And it took me a long time to realize, like, what's the common denominator? It's me. And, recognizing that and being like, okay, what is this? And like my own insecurity about, I'm not good enough, competition, like that woman's better. And, evoking all this negative energy. So that was me. And then the same, in relationships, like these issues, they keep happening. What's the common denominator? It's me. What is this? And so that's really helpful when we can start. I mean, you have to, in order to have a healthy, loving relationship, you've got to get to that point where you can look at your past relationships and be like, okay, this was my issue in this relationship. This is what my insecurity was in this relationship. This is how I contributed to this toxic relationship. Yeah, I think awareness is key. And what you said too about the attracting like our family, really like these familiar aspects.
Mhm.
I always saw that as like in the negative. So I always attracted like the negative qualities. I always came into the role of like, how do I get my dad's attention? My dad's not paying attention to me. So like that would work itself, or sorry, be reflected in the relationship. So I always felt my partners didn't spend enough time, pay enough attention to me. And I was just repeating like my daddy issues. And now, I'm aware of a lot of that, and that's not happening. So now I'm noticing like, I don't know if I'm articulating this properly, but familiar can also be a good thing. So we can, we'll attract our partners and they will have a lot of qualities of our father, but the good qualities. So it doesn't need to be this,
True. Yes.
yeah, like the negative aspects. We can change it and attract like the positive aspects of those relationships, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I definitely feel that maybe I didn't say that right, like all of our parents are bad, but you think about it too, right? As I've gotten older, I realize when you're a child, you look at your parents that they know it, know everything, and it's almost, I don't say godlike, but they know it. They're my answer to everything. They're my mommy and they're my daddy. And when you get to a point in your life and you're like, oh my God, they're just kids, or they didn't have the tools. Wow, like what you did and how you raised me, my parents were teenagers. It's like, no wonder, like who taught them how to raise a child and like cope with stresses of life. And so when you realize that did the best that they could with what they had, right? So something shifts, but that doesn't solve, like you said. Yes, there's so many great things about my parents, but I attracted the bad things. Why?
Yes.
And then so when I started to realize, okay, that is not what I wanted, but that was what I was attracting. Okay, so now, okay, let me figure this out. Let me realize, let me go internally and say, no, Celeste, that you need to and want this. So you need to do something different. And
Yeah.
that's hard too, like to know that, oh shit, 3 relationships, and it's like, okay. But it also is empowering because and I think the more knowledge you have going into relationships, right? Going into a new relationship, because this one didn't work, right? Okay, I don't want this. And I know where I'm coming from now. So attracting you're going to attract who you are, right? You're going to attract who you are. So know that how you show up in this world and how you are with yourself, if you have self-worth, if you love yourself, if you respect yourself, you trust yourself in the decisions you make, you will attract that. It will just come to you. And I'm not saying that's woo-woo, ha-ha. It honestly, in everything that you do, in the places that you are, and people always say, well, where do I meet him? There's nobody here for me. There's all of these million excuses I hear, and dating sucks. And when you go into this attitude of dating sucks instead of it's fun and it's exciting, and there's so many things that you should be enjoying yourself and just having a good time. And if it's not a good time, okay. But like going into an experience like that should be a lot lighter. And we put this pressure, and I think women too, we put this pressure. Well, if I'm going to date, it's got to be serious and it's got to be the one, and da 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 da. And you're going to come into that meeting and he's going to feel it.
Yeah.
And so the serial one daters out there, I've had a few lady friends. Okay, I love you to death, but there's always something wrong, right? There's always, well, it wasn't like this, and then, but you're coming in with this energy, and they feel it.
And it's also good reflection. There's something wrong with him. There was something wrong with the date. It's again, like you attract and you like who you are. So pointing out like this was wrong, that's probably also how you're talking about yourself. Like, I'm not good enough in this way. I'm not good enough in this way. So that's also a really good
Mhm.
indication to just, yeah, there's always more work to do, of course.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you have to be perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before you go in, because there's a lot of healing, like deep, I think there's a lot of deep healing in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
but so you don't have to be completely healed, women, men. I don't mean that. I just
Mm-hmm.
mean awareness and continue to work on yourself because we all can be better parents or humans or, bosses or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're self-aware, then you're in a much better place of denial or, the things that hold us back to really finding that person. It's possible. It is a beautiful place to be in. And so I challenge you guys to really write down, like, I want to say 20 things. I don't even want to say 10 things. There's always 3 deal breakers. And I mean
Mm-hmm.
like big, big, big deal breakers. For me, definitely no drugs. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
1,000% deal breaker for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, there's a couple more, but like get real with yourself. Everybody's like, I got 10 deal breakers. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you have more, but there's 3 that like hard no.
Mm-hmm.
So write down those things, write down the things that you want. And I mean, if you want somebody that's like, I want someone that's successful, I mean, that's so broad, right? I
Yes.
want someone that's dedicated to his work as much as he's dedicated to his family.
Mm.
So you've got success on both sides. Like, what matters to you though? Like, so get really raw with yourself and be very specific. And I don't mean like he's got to be 6 foot and not 5'10" or 5'11", because when you're that specific, that's just, you're missing out, because
Yeah.
you can meet someone that's amazing and they're 2 inches shorter. So
Mm-hmm.
women, and I'm saying this because we're such ingrained in the height thing, right? And
Mm.
it might not be for everybody, but it's the thing. um, and then write about yourself, what you want to bring to the relationship. What are those things that you're going to be different in? How are you going to show up?
Mm.
And then, okay, you can do, I don't think you should put your eggs in all one basket. Don't just go
Mm-hmm.
on online dating. If you really are serious, find a matchmaker, do everything, go out with people and be invited, and anything that you're invited to, go to
Yes.
a dinner party, a house party, and also go to the places that those men are showing up to who you want to date.
Mm-hmm.
Start new hobbies. Maybe there's no men there. Maybe you take a class that you always wanted to take, but you're open and vulnerable and waiting, not waiting, but you're not waiting, you're doing something for yourself that you're
Yeah.
going to fill yourself up. And while you're doing that, you're meeting new people. And maybe
Yeah.
that's the sister of a brother, so
Mm-hmm.
being open and putting yourself out there, but for yourself
Yeah.
first.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good place to
Yeah.
be.
Yes, I love that. And that lightness and that fun element as you're talking is really, yeah, that just sounds so much more light and fun than like, I got to create a profile. I got to meet the man of my life. I want a relationship. And yeah, it just sounds a lot lighter. And that feminine energy as well of like the space of allowing and discovering and exploring and like that curiosity element. I love that.
It's so fun. It's so
Mm-hmm.
exciting. Like I'm just, yeah, I mean, this me being in, I know where I need to be. And it took me a while to like, where's my people? Where are my groups at? Start with your passions and they will
Mm-hmm.
always lead you to something else, or maybe that's it. And like, I promise you will learn so much about yourself. And in the meantime, you'll meet so many people, opportunities for you. And I think it's just opportunities.
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you think back to those first, dating experiences when your daughter was like 5 or 6, and you mentioned like you were so closed off and to today, where are you at now? And how do your maybe dating experiences or experiences with men in general differ to back then?
Yeah. I mean, clear as day, masculine energy. I'm in my feminine.
Mm,
I leave my masculine at home. or with my business, 1000%, because that attracts nobody. I promise. You're gonna hit walls. It's just like, it's like a cue ball just hitting the side of the pool table over and over and over. And it's not going in the hole. It's just hitting the sidewall, boom, boom. So it's pointless.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's so much more healing that's going to happen in that really deep relationship. Also, it's more fun for me. Before I was like, this like such a drag, like and it's like this talk that I had in my head. And that has completely shifted because I just want to experience new experiences for me first. And you always have to put yourself first. And I love myself more. I was so injured for years and years and years, and I just kept putting up walls. I'm like, well, okay, I'm not gonna. It's not that I didn't deal with a lot of stuff. It just, I don't know. I just wasn't melty cheesy sometimes, and nobody can get to know you. People want to get to know you. They want to know who the real you is, not what people want you to be. Remember that. It's so important. The reason why we're beautiful, we're snowflakes, there's nobody else like us. And you will meet that person who is for you. The more you try to be someone you're not, you're going to meet the wrong person every time. And you're going to try to fit yourself into that. You're a square and you're trying to put yourself into a round hole. Why? Why nobody wants that? And I trust me, even growing up, I was like, oh, that person's so weird. I'd be like on the outskirts, kind of looking at people in general and like, but I would always respect them because I'm like, they're who they are though. That's so amazing that they're confident enough to be who they are.
Yes.
And that's another example. But like, yeah, I do it for me. Like, okay, let me go try a new class. Do you want to, like, let's go. That's a good first date. Don't go to dinner, wine, coffee. That should be like when you know someone, a few dates, if you still want to date them, because it's so awkward. You can't drill them, even if you want to, you can't. And you could find so much about them. Like you can say, oh, well, are they adventurous? Do they whine if they fall? Like all of these things it's amazing that like so many things you could tell about someone when you do an activity. And there's like a bonding experience too. Like, you have got all these endorphins that happen, and that's another connection. And maybe you're just friends, but whatever, it's fun for you. So do something, take a class, do stand-up paddleboard. I don't know, just do something that maybe you've wanted to. It's a good excuse.
Yes.
To do it with someone you don't know.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest difference is loving myself, knowing my worth, knowing that I deserve to feel love and accepted and trusted and all of those things that we should have in a normal relationship, but I must have not, right? And it allowed me to bring that person into the dating experience and making it more fun.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's so great to think about, because sometimes like that classic image of like a first date at dinner, and it's so like you're in the spotlight almost, and it would be so tense. But then like what you said, stand up paddleboarding, it's like, oh my God, the beautiful nature, and you're getting exercise, you're in the sun, you're on the water, like perfect. And if Buddy can't keep up, okay, well then he's not your guy. But you got to go out on your paddleboard and you didn't have to go alone. And it's just, again, such a light way to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a dog person, go on a walk. Like it doesn't have to be so the beauty of it, you get to decide, where and what you want to do. And meaning like if he's like, okay, I'll just tell him like, okay, let's do an activity or maybe do something. I'm not saying to take control or like, this is what you need to do, but allow him to say, I'd love to do an adventure date. And it could just be a hike around a new lake or something. It doesn't have to be so crazy.
Yeah. Keep it simple, keep it light. And I like that. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. And so I do want to ask you as well, where I don't know if this is a good question, but I just want to know, you as a mother, how has that evolved? Like your daughter's 16 now. And
Yeah.
yeah, how has your role as a mother evolved and your relationship with your daughter?
That's a good question. So I have had the golden child of a daughter when she was young.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was like, wow, this is amazing. We're have this amazing bond, and she's so beautiful and loving and artistic, and I could leave, she just wasn't a problem child. Then, and everybody said, wait till she's a teenager. And then,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, oh, your boys are so crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and anyhow, yeah, the last couple years have been super challenging because for a number of reasons. One is we did move and shift across the country, but she wanted it as much as I did, but I don't know if she realized the impact it may have had
Mm-hmm.
her on trying to fit in at 13, 14, trying to create an identity, even regardless if you're not in a new location, but teens of that age are just really struggling to know who they are and their hormones, and parents are trying to control them and they don't want to be controlled. And, it's just this tug and pull relationship. But because of the pandemic, I think it exacerbated my daughter's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So mental health has been a struggle for us the last couple of years, but I'm the type of parent that is very, very involved. And I mean, in the sense like, okay, let's get a therapist, let's get a psychotherapist, let's
Mm-hmm.
everything possible, every tool, because I can't do it all. There's no possible way. And I know it, and that's okay. Like, let the professionals be involved too.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, oh, they get all the power. I mean, I'm not an expert and I need help. Again,
Mm-hmm.
asking for the help when you need
Yes.
it. It's okay. And you need that, whether it's family, whether it's a therapist, whether it's, I don't know what the struggle is. I think every parent who has a teenager at some point needs some kind of help. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so grateful for these people that have helped my daughter, um, because she still has struggles. It's normal, but I think she has safe spaces that she knows that she can talk about. I don't need to know everything, and nor would she ever tell me everything,
Mm-hmm.
because that's who she is, and she's a little secretive, and we're getting past that because I think she felt that I would not understand or I wouldn't this, like every teenager, our
Mm-hmm.
parents are, oh, they don't understand my way of this. And just
Mm-hmm.
like maybe we thought when we were growing up. But I'm so blessed because honestly, lately she has been my rock when I've needed her.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that maybe is not normal because you usually have a husband or a wife or a significant other. But my daughter is in my corner because I've been in her corner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really amazing. And this is just very recent. So we have struggled for the last 3 years. It's been hard, hard, hard because I think that was the first time I also was like, shit, I wish I had someone to bounce off these ideas or take
Mm-hmm.
over for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was tough.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so
um,
much for your honesty with
yeah,
sharing that. I felt that for sure. And yeah, it's not, it doesn't sound like it's been an easy ride, and but what a beautiful relationship you guys have, even though it's challenging at times. And thanks so much for just being real about that and
you're
honest. I
welcome.
think
Yeah.
that's so important. Because on the surface we can look like we got it all together, we got it all figured out. And maybe how we present on day-to-day basis, that is, positive energy, all happy-go-lucky. But in reality, we all have these ups and downs and challenges. And yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, that's the only way to I'm very comfortable with being honest because I feel like I said earlier, it is the only way I've really connected and healed. Because the
Mm-hmm.
times that I felt like what I've told people what they wanted to, um, I have a very, very close relationship with my mother and my sister. I'm very lucky. Um, but there was moments too within our relationships that I didn't feel I could be completely honest. Or if I was like, I'm really struggling, I would feel, oh, you should do this or you should do that, or, insert the do this or do that,
Mm-hmm.
where please, please allow the people that should be loving you and receiving you and allowing you to have that safe space are not going to be people that tell you what to do,
Mm-hmm.
because that will shut you down. And it did for me. And I was like, okay, well, then I'm not going to tell you my struggles. And I needed somebody, I needed someone to have that. And that was really hard. And I know that, like, even if you're married too, I know that you don't always have that support with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
um as things change. I mean, relationships change, they evolve, and children evolve and change. And I think what I could tell you from my clients that are married that I help with, getting their sexy back,
Mm-hmm.
is they seem to come to me because I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, but they have a safe space where they're like, I would say the biggest thing is to be supportive of each other and respect each other. Because when you are a team, that is so much more powerful than when you try to work on these different individual, then that's like a whole nother mess, right? Well,
Yes.
I shouldn't parent like this, or he thinks I'm this. You got to support each other. I mean, that's like
Mm-hmm.
in some way or shape. I mean, you might have arguments and disagreements, but when you're a team, man, that's what I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so
So
good.
you can have it. I promise you. Like, I feel like I really want to change the perception of dating, the perception of how difficult things are. And yes, modern dating kind of sucks, like,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, but it can also be really great, and I don't mean like you have to go in, because shit, days are hard. Excuse me, I don't know if I can curse,
Of course.
but some days life is so difficult and so hard. And it's not always going to be like, oh, if I'm just happy and if I'm just, everything's going to be great. Well, F great being great,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's like, if you just work at yourself and love yourself and really know that who you are and what you want. And I know that sounds like so generic, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants the same thing.
Yeah.
And be 1,000% real with yourself. Be authentic to who you are. Don't feel
Mm-hmm.
ashamed of the things that you love, even if it's in
Mm-hmm.
the bedroom, even if you feel like, oh, I'm weird because maybe I'm kinky. Maybe what
Mm-hmm.
you feel is kinky, maybe has been somewhere down the line in your religion or your family, it's been shunned upon.
Mm-hmm.
It is not it's okay to be who you are and love who you are. And I promise you, when you live from that space, you will find that person for yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Tapping into the authenticity and expressing yourself, being real, which is a journey in itself. Every day I have to remind myself, like, it's safe to be myself. I'm allowed to express myself. I'm allowed to speak. I'm allowed to use my voice, all those things. But it is true, when we are ourselves, we will attract people like us, like the same weirdo kinky freaks. We're gonna
Yeah,
attract them.
it's awesome.
It's awesome. Like, if I look at my friends and the people in my network, in my surrounding, my partner, like, yes, like, they're all uniquely weird, funny, great, wonderful people. And that's because I was myself with them, is how I attracted them. And yes, that's such an important piece.
That's beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
think we learn that too late in life. And the faster you learn it, right? I'm 47.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken a lot to learn, but nobody taught me. And I don't think we're taught a lot. So having coaches and also in our lives, right? We're the best people because we're not judgmental. We'll tell you it straight. We'll give you the guidance that you
Mm-hmm.
need. So, that's also another amazing tool, if you will,
Mhm.
and we give you more tools, doesn't mean you're like less than in any way. That actually shows strength. It takes
Totally.
courage. It takes strength to work on yourself and own who you are and
Mhm.
live in that space. And the more you practice, and I think that's really key right there, is to practice. Practice every
Mhm.
day with little moments, little
Yes.
tools, little affirmations, little things to help you and keep you on your journey.
Yeah. Wonderful. And so for segueing on that, practicing every day, is there any piece of advice or anything that you can think of that's like a little, like a tangible, practical step that that women or men could
Mhm.
take towards, you know, being able to attract that person into their life, or being able to just be their authentic selves? Like, do you have anything that you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said a lot in there already,
You did.
geared towards that, but I guess do something every day for yourself. Like
Hmm.
really, really that puts you in the right space to find your person. So if it's like I said, build up your if it's self-worth for you, maybe it's not. I'm just speaking for something that I experienced and went through myself.
Hmm.
Um, doing the things that validated who I am and continued kind of on those paths, like read the books, took the class, challenged myself because I feel like when you don't challenge yourself as a person, then you kind of just sometimes lose purpose.
Hmm.
And I think we have to have a purpose. What is your purpose for dating? Ask yourself those questions. Is it just because society wants you and you just should be
Hmm.
traditional and that's not who you are? Don't listen to it. If it's truly who you want, if you want to have a partner, I guess ask yourself why it is. If it's just for sex, I mean, like be honest and real, and it's okay there's no right or wrong answer.
Hmm.
But when you know what you really want and why it is that you want it, then go for it. Like
Hmm.
do the challenge. Maybe it's once a month you go out to a new place with your girlfriends, or maybe it's I don't know, trying a new restaurant. I would give one other advice. If you're dating on the apps and you match with somebody, have like two texts with that person and meet up, because I'll tell you, you will know everything about that person in one meeting. You'll figure it out if you want to continue, because this endless texting, this whatever, one, you're not going to really know if you're attracted to them. You're not going to
Hmm.
really have that space. But two, it pushes you to learn how to date. And it's okay
Hmm.
if you're at the very beginning and you're just getting to know, maybe you don't really quite know, and that's okay too. Just be honest on your profile. Just say, I eventually want a long-term partner or a partner, but I'm
Hmm.
just figuring out my dating goals
Hmm.
or whatever, and it's okay.
Yeah.
So go enjoy yourself, go have fun, and that's literally what I would take away from our conversation today.
Hmm. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
how can listeners connect with you, Celeste? What's the best way to work with you, or just check out your work?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Definitely you can go to my website, celestemore.com. You can find me on socials at Celeste Moore Image. But honestly, if you want some free value added advice, or listen to my podcast, because I have really great people on there, it's called The Down and Dirty. And, we do have some male based topics, but it is for both sexes. Because when I think about it, it's like if you're talking about men's sexual health, really that's like, it could be something that you're interested in if you're in a relationship too, and
Hmm.
wanting to know these things too. The more I just think education is amazing and it can't hurt.
Yes.
And then if you go to my website too, you can just put your email in, and I like to send out blogs and information on dating like introverts, how to date with your love language, just really cool little bits and pieces there. So yeah, that's it.
I love that. I will be sure to link those in the show notes, so you can easily find that. And yeah, I am listening to the Down and Dirty podcast, and yeah, it's super, super awesome. And yeah, I love what you do. And Celeste, yeah, I just want to say again, like, thank you so much for chatting with me, and like your honesty and your vulnerability. I just really, really appreciate that. And I feel like there's so many more topics that are coming to me that
We could do another show, or you could be on mine with, I love to, it's just, we're in this space. You and I are in this space. And I think people can really feel it when they listen. We're here because we genuinely, excuse me,
Mhm.
really want to help people. And a lot of that comes from our own experiences and our, doesn't really, I mean, yeah, our certifications are, great for them to see, but it's in a space of authenticity. And I feel that that's what we're here to do. And so, yeah, thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor, really is. And I hope everybody listening here today is able to take away something that's a piece of my life into your relationship. And there's a connection, and hopefully you learned something. That's the goal.
Awesome. Yes, it is. And yeah, I'm sure many women connected with your story today. Final question before
Yes.
we wrap up for today. What song are you dancing to at the moment?
Ooh, I wish I could tell you a mainstream song,
No, that's no fun.
but I am a EDM lover, a trance lover. I
Cool.
like a different type of music. I like music that makes me feel good and has energy. And so I'm obsessed with a couple DJs that just I listen to their live stuff. And when I'm in a funk, I just put it on and it makes me happy. So
I love that. Yeah, you'll have to send those to me because I will add those to the Dating Greatly playlist on Spotify.
oh,
And
cool.
yeah, that'll be fun. Perfect. Yeah, I like that. Again, thank you so much, Celeste, for coming on today, for sharing your story, sharing your tips and your experience. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.